Greetings, everyone. Once again, is Martin here with another translation of the teaching that we received from Zulu. The teaching is who really is the black man? What is his purpose on earth? So before I begin, I would like once again to thank Loba, the creator, the only unique creator to have allowed us to know the truth at this period of time, because we are in a time where a lot of people are in confusions, and by the manifestation of his grace, we now know the truth and we are delivered from obscurity. So the title is who really is the black man and what is his purpose on earth. And why is this important? It is very important because a lot of people currently don't know their identity. They don't know the true history of the black race, of black people, and they are confused. They are in various religion, in various sort and type of knowledge, in other sort and type of spiritualities that are in total confusions. A lot of black people currently don't know where they come from and who they are, their true identity, because those who control the media, those who control the information's flow, meaning the media and the people behind the internet that have a lot of influence, a lot of the big companies, they are pushing a narrative, and it is the narrative that a lot of people have accepted and are currently believing in. And in that propaganda they're using, they're always showing an image of the black people, of the black race, as when, for example, you go online and you search about black history, what are they going to show you? They're going to show you some pictures about slavery. They're going to show you some pictures about black people in Africa currently, or kids suffering, kids begging for food. That's the image they are trying to show to the population. And to always try to bring black people, an image of black people down. And why is it the case? Now, a lot of people still are aware that black people had a glorious history. They had empires, they had kings and queens, they built monuments, they built a lot of things, and they were conquerors, and they were powerful on earth. They were on the top, as to say. And other people will say, no, black people don't have an history. They didn't contribute anything into society or into civilization. So there's this conflicting debate that's going on in various spheres, in various cases in history, at various moments in time. And what is the truth in all that? Now, for that, we are going to go into the only authentic Bible. So Bibèl, the only authentic Bible, brought to us today by Zulu. Zulu is the only mandated teacher. So they initiate us in the knowledge of the truth, in the knowledge of our spirituality, in the knowledge of who we are. And in this Bible that came out, is available in French, and I will be translating the verses that in this teaching in English, so for us and for you to understand. So for that, we are going into Hosea 1 verse 6. In the current day Bibles, it is in Hosea 4 verse 6. In the current day Bible, where we are going to go into the only authentic truth version. Now, in this version, it says this: the uninitiated is silent, for he is silent by white and mixed bloods who altered the original history of his ancestor. The uninitiated black people is now destroyed because he lacks knowledge. Since you have rejected knowledge, Mundima Bekok Sedi, who is the entity in charge of punishment of the domain of the nature, has also rejected you. and you are despoiled of the natural source. Since you have forgotten the law of the verb of loba, mutatedi, the entity who guides, the initiates, so mutatedi will not guide your descendant for a long period. So here in this verse, once again in Hosea chapter 4, verse 6 in the current day Bible, but in this authentic truth version is in Hosea chapter 1, verse 6. You are told that the uninitiated is silent. First of all, we have to know who is the uninitiated. The uninitiated is black people who are not aware of their true identity, who are not aware of their true history, of their past, of who their ancestors were, who are believing in lies, who are in false religion, in false doctrine, in false spiritualities, that things that just came along, that recently were invented and created to manipulate the black race. So those are the one. The uninitiated is silent, for he is silenced by whites and mixed blood. So the other races, the black people, a portion of the black people, the uninitiated black people, are silenced by who? By the other races, by the other people. So those who currently they say they control. Because why? Because who altered the original history of his ancestors. So here you are told that they changed the history of black people, that they falsified their history. They tried to remove the trace, tried to remove who the kings, the queens were. They tried to erase their history, and they tried to destroy it, so we don't have any trace and any clue of what happened in the past. They burned the books, they killed a lot of people to try to silence those who knew and try to stop that revelation, so the truth to be known by the uninitiated people. So they altered the original history of his ancestors. So the ancestors of the black race had a glorious past, and that's the history that they tried to hide and they altered, so what they claim it was theirs. And he says here, the uninitiated black people is now destroyed because he lacks knowledge. Is now destroyed. So as you can see in the state of the world right now, a portion of black people are feeling oppressed, feeling that things are not going well, to say the least. Things are not going well. They are complaining and they are aware that there's things that are going on right now that are unjust. So there's injustice going on, there's hatred towards them, and there's lies being perpetrated against them. And you're told here is because he lacks knowledge. So it's because the people, as a people, the uninitiated lacks knowledge. They lack knowledge of what? They lack knowledge of the truth. Because you're told here, since you have rejected knowledge with the uppercase K, Munzima Bekok Sedi has also rejected you, and you're despoiled of the natural source. And what is that knowledge? We have to understand here that knowledge with the uppercase K is the truth. Is the truth there? The truth. And what is the truth? The truth is not in other religions, is not in all the religions that currently exist. The truth is what is brought to us today by Zulu Lassan. It's the only truth and the only path to salvation. And here you're told you are despoiled of the natural source. So the uninitiated were despoiled. That means they were removed, they were teared apart, they were removed from the natural source. And the source, the natural source, is the verb of loba. So it's the word, it is the manifestation of the word of the creator, of the verb of the creator, loba. Since you have forgotten the law of the verb of loba, so since a lot of them have forgotten their spirituality, have forgotten the laws that were given to them by the verb of loba through the prophets, through the previous prophets that came along, who taught them how to obey the law, how to walk according to the path of righteousness. Since they have forgotten that and they didn't teach that to their descendants and their children, that's the uninitiated black people. Mutatedi, so the entity, will not guide your descendant for a long period. So they were not guided by the spiritual because of their faults, because they rejected the law, because they forgot who the creator is. And they went in other religions, they went and worshiped other false gods. And that's why the situation is as it is at the moment, because they lack the knowledge of the truth. A lot of black people, like I said, don't know their true history. And the part of the history they know is a part of history that already has been falsified and has already been tampered with. So, when they are faced then in this state, in this condition, in the fall, in the current present day, in the current present time we are, when a lot of uninitiated black people are faced with remarks, with hatred towards them, for example, some white people are going to tell them, oh, you're a slave, or you're a monkey, you come from a monkey, go back to where you come from, go back to Africa. Here's a banana. They're going to laugh. They're going to make fun of them. A lot of them are not going to know what to answer, what to say to that, because they're unaware. A portion of them are unaware of who they are, of their origin. So they're going to be silenced by those claims. There's going to be silence, and they're going to be oppressed. They're going to be hated against, and they won't know what to say. They won't know what to answer because they won't have the knowledge of their identity, of who they are. And because of that, they won't know what to answer. And the media also is pushing a narrative to show a situation where it's always shown, is always, like I said, in the major part of, when you go online, you search black history and so on, or Africa, or people, or black people, the image that are often going to come up are pictures that are not glorifying the black race or are not putting them in a good light, right? They're trying to, a lot of time it's showing a bad image, meaning either black people being oppressed, black people begging, black people, a portion of black people being poor. They're going to show in Africa, for example, when they're going to talk about the countries, they're going to talk about violence, they're going to talk about war, they're going to talk about things that's going on that are not in a good way. But when they're going to show their countries, when they're going to show their history, they're going to always focus on the good things. They're always going to talk about their good, how they're doing well, how they're in peace and so on, their technology. That's the image they are going to show, right? So that image, the visual, play a good impact, right? Because a lot of people are going to know and going to say that history is going to be written by the victors, those who have won the war, right? And currently, many people will think, well, because they have some power in the visible, according to them, they're going to have a lot of influence. So they're going to show a face of history they want to show. So they're going to show, and they're going to write books. They're going to paint a picture which always show them as right, as in history they did the right things, and the black race or black people were subdued, were taken into captivity, were taken advantage of, and is always down, right? They won't show, or often they won't show, for example, the glorious kingdoms, right? They won't show the kings and queens in the ancient Africa that were very powerful and ruled the world, right? They won't show that. They're going to show their history where they were in power according to them. So what is the history then when we are faced with such attacks, right? So we have to know what truly happened. And what did happen? What is the history? The history when we are talking about slavery, because a lot of black people, when they're gonna think about their history, they're gonna focus on slavery. They're gonna focus on, okay, we were down, we didn't invent anything, and so forth and so on. Or they're gonna claim that they didn't build a lot of things. Well, that's false. That's false. And when we talk about slavery, the truth is white people and mixed blood, meaning the other races, were in slavery way before black people, and they were in slavery for a longer period of time than black people were. That means in the history of the world, if they're trying to depict that black people are the inferior race and has been subdued and has been in slavery, that's the image that they're going to try to portray. But the truth is, white people and the European and the mixed blood were in slavery for a longer period of time in history than black people were. And for a longer period of time. So they were in slavery for a longer period of time than blacks. That's the history. Some people are going to say black people were in slavery for around 400 years when they talk about the transatlantic slave trade or the slave trade in America. They're going to say around 400 years. And when they're going to talk about the slavery with the Arab trade, when the Arabs took some portion of black people, uninitiated black people, and put them into slavery, they're going to say it was about 1,600 years and so on. So those are roughly what they will claim and what the dates they're going to show. But here I'm going to put some articles, I'm going to put some links in the description of slavery in Europe. So here the first is going to be in l'histoire.fr. The link is going to be in the description. It says here, in the 11th century, Dublin was the largest slave market in Europe, and a tenth of the British population was enslaved, which left a deep mark on the English identity, whose national anthem proclaimed that the British will never be slaves. Slaves precisely because they were. Patrick, patron saint of Ireland, according to them, was one of them in the 5th century. The Vikings were first-rate slave traders and massively displaced people, to such an extent that this trafficking changed the face of Europe. So here you're told in this article that Europe, a great part of Europe were enslaved. And that was way before black people. The Vikings, if you go into history, when you search about the history of the Vikings, even the history of Europe, you're going to see and you're going to know that they had a lot of slaves, and a great portion of them were in slavery, were in chains, were oppressed, were subdued. They were practicing that between themselves. So a lot of white people were already in slavery way before black people were. So when they're going to try to portray an image where they're going to show black people in chains, in slavery, to try to play with your emotions, with your emotions, to say, okay, you were in slavery and we've oppressed that to your ancestors, to a portion of your ancestor, because we have to be clear here, it wasn't all black people that were in slavery. It was a portion. It was a part. So the uninitiated that were put into slavery, a portion of the uninitiated people. It wasn't the whole black race, right? And that lasted, like I said, some will say 400 years, some people will say 1,600 years, and so on. But here, like I showed you already in the first article, in the 11th century, they were already practicing that. And here in another article, it says this: before the development of slave trade from Africa in the 18th century, he was between half and 2/3 of the very first white immigrants from the British colonies of the New World who came as forced laborers. That is to say, 300,000 to 400 people, explained Neil Irvin Painter, so that's author. So you're shown here that in the 18th century, when the English had their colonies, so the colonies of the New World, as they claim, New World because for them they didn't know, but there were already people living there, so it's new only to them. They took white people and placed them in those lands as slaves to work on the land. So it wasn't only a portion of black people. They were already doing that with white people. So Neil Irvin Painter summons the whole forgotten part. She says, the word history, that the white slavery, which lasted more than 2,000 years. So here, according to this author, according to some historians, according to some researchers, even white historians, they will say that white people themselves, a portion of them, the Europeans and so on, the mixed blood, were in slavery for more than 2,000 years, according to the dates that they will give. So that's way longer than black people were. And here let's talk about the Barbary slave trade. I'll show another article. It's going to be this one in Wikipedia. The Barbary slave trade referred to a slave market on the Barbary coast of North Africa, which included the Ottoman provinces of Algeria, Tunisia, Tripolitania, and the independent Sultanate of Morocco between the 16th and 19th century. European slaves were acquired by Barbary pirates in slave raids on ship and raid on coastal towns from Italy to the Netherlands, Ireland, southwest Britain, and as far as Iceland and into the eastern Mediterranean. So here you're told that from the 16th to the 19th century there was also a slave trade in the Barbary slave trade, which were mostly the slaves were mostly white and mixed blood, and they were from Italy, from Netherlands, Ireland, southwest of Britain, North Ireland, and Mediterranean. So, and when you even look into history regarding the Romans and so on, they had a lot of slaves, and a lot of those slaves were white and they were mixed blood. When you search about the Greek, it's the same thing. They had, so basically it was already in their culture. It was already what they were doing. And when you talk about the Vikings, they also had a lot of slaves. They were capturing a lot of Europeans and putting them in chains and putting them in slavery in their boat. And the Vikings were very vicious, and they were basically they were strong. They were strong, and they were not playing around at their time, right? When the other European was seeing the Viking, they were very afraid, right? So that's the history they are trying to hide. That they themselves, that the Europeans, the white, the mixed blood, they were in slavery. So when they will try to show you an image where it's only the black race or portion of black people that were in slavery, that's a totally fabricated image. That's wrong. When you're going to search slavery, they're going to show a lot of time the picture that's going to come up is going to be of black people. When in fact, in history, they were slaves way longer and for a longer period of time. So there's also a book, and I'll put the link once again in the description here. The book in the translation, the book is in French, but the translation in English of the title of the book is The Slave Trade, White Slavery from the 8th to the 18th Century. So here in another book, in another historian, says and relate that white people were in slavery from the 8th to the 18th century. And you see, that's a very, very long time. So that is the history they are trying to hide. They are trying to suppress. They don't want you to know, because that will go against the narrative where they were basically where they claim they're on top and they're the one dominating. So the first phase is the contempt of the black man. The contempt, so the hatred of black people by other races, by other people. So here, they will use a lot of things, but sometimes a lot of them, they're going to use the N-word to try to insult black people, to try to put them down, when in fact, Negro simply means black in Spanish. And he also has a Latin root, which means black. So when they're going to try to use those words to try to put black people down, when in fact we just have to know what that word really means. It simply means black. That's what it is. Now, why is there such a hatred? Why is there such a hate? Why are they always trying to put and cause injustice on black people? Where does that come from? So here, for that, we're going to go back in history, because it is very important to know our history, to know what happened, to know the cause. Where did it begin? So we can understand why it is this way today. For that, we are going to go in origin, in Bibèl, and I will be Bibèl, like I mentioned, is the only authentic Bible without any errors and any contradictions. All the other Bible, all the other text books, religious books are wrong, full of contradiction, full of errors, full of mistakes. And here I'll be translating those verse in English. So in origin, chapter 11, verse 6, it's about the Tower of Babel. So for those who don't know, the Tower of Babel was in Africa. So that was after the flood, after the great flood, after the period of time after the time of Noah, right? And apart, those who came after that, after the flood, they decided to go into East Africa to build a tower. And that tower was a pyramid. Now in history, now in some texts, in some books, and in some articles, if you search about the Tower of Babel, they're going to claim, no, it was in the Middle East, it was there, and so on. So they're going to lie. Meaning they're going to take the history that happened in Africa and they're going to take it away and put them in their homeland to try to falsify history. But like I mentioned, the authentic Bible is here to reveal what really happened. And in this text, in this authentic version that I will be translating in English, it says this in Origin chapter 11 verse 6. Mutatedi. Who is Mutatedi? Mutatedi is the entity. Is an entity that guides the initiated people. Mutatedi says, "Behold, the uninitiated have discovered the mystery of the gate of heaven, giving to the side of the occult world. They are united amongst themselves and have one thought, and the same knowledge. And this is what they've undertaken. Now they are going to unite with the whites and the mixed blood." Verse 7. Mundima beko kisedi. So once again, the entity of punishment in the domain of the nature, in charge of the domain, the entity of punishment in charge of the domain of nature, will confuse their spirit so that whites and mixed bloods put them in servitude for a very long time, known by us whom the entities in the great order of things, they have the knowledge of how long that servitude is gonna be. But before this servitude, so now we're talking about before the servitude of a portion of the uninitiated black people. So before that take place, but before this servitude, the uninitiated kings, so those are black people, like I've mentioned, the uninitiated kings, queens, princes, princesses, high dignitaries, notable, and other influential uninitiated figures will put in servitude whites and mixed bloods. So here, in verse 6, after the flood, a part of black people that were uninitiated, they went into Eastern Africa and they were building a pyramid, the Tower of Bibèl, in Shinar, in the land of Shinar. I've shown the map already. It's in East Africa. Nobody can prove otherwise. Giving to the mystery of the gate of heaven, giving to the side of the occult world. So they were building something, a tower, a structure, a pyramid, giving. And they are united amongst themselves. So they were united and have one thought and the same knowledge. And this is what they've undertaken. Now they are going to unite with the white and the mixed blood. So they were going to unite. So make alliances with other races and with the mixed bloods. So that's why the confusion came into place in their spirit. So that was a punishment in their spirit because of what they were thinking, what they were planning to do. So that confusion will happen so that the other race will put them in servitude. So that means their spirit will be confused, and in the visible plan, so on earth, we're going to see that confusion being manifested and the other race are going to take advantage of that, and they're going to dominate for a period of time. They're going to be oppressed and they're going to be put into servitude. But you're told that before that servitude happened, before that punishment, before that take place in the visible, the uninitiated black people, so the uninitiated kings, queens, notable, will put in servitude whites and half-breeds. So that means before white people put black people in slavery, and like I said, and I will repeat here again, it wasn't all black people that were put in slavery. It was only a portion. So before a portion of the uninitiated black people were put into slavery, black people already did put white people into slavery. And they put whites and mixed blood into slavery. And you have to understand here that was for a long period of time, for a longer period of time than the current day that will show how long black people were in slavery for. That's the history. So this lasted centuries and centuries. And even white researchers will also say and confirm that what Zulu Lassan, the only teacher, tells us today and revealed to us at this period of time in this era. So, if one person, if the other race come to you, and say, no, you're black, you're a slave, and so on, tell them no. It is you who are a slave. Because they were in slavery way before and for a longer period of time than a portion of black people were. That's the truth. That's the history they are trying to hide, because they are afraid of that truth to be known, because they're ashamed of what happened. So they're trying to hide it. So When we're going to talk about history now, we're going to talk about the kingdoms. Zulasan is going to reveal to us, and in the books, the text, and even in history, you're going to search, you're going to know, you're going to find out that black people had kingdoms, kings, queens, empires, technologies. They had a lot of things, and they were conquerors, and they were, like I said, on top. So they were leading the world in every domain. And now people are going to say, well, where is the proof? Where is the proof of what we are saying, of what Zulasan is saying? Where are the proof? Well, they know that they cannot look, they won't, because if they look in some areas, for example, if they go in Central Africa and do some research, some real research, where they're not trying to hide, but they're going to find what they don't want to find and what they don't want to say. So that's why they're only going to search in some specific places where they're comfortable searching, where they know that they're going to just show some little things. They don't want to show, they don't want to go and search in Central Africa because they're afraid of what they will find out, because the soil, the ground, the earth keep the trace of what happened. Keep the trace. And that's a history they prefer, they rather we don't, or black people don't know. Because once they will know that history, they'll say, oh, things happen here, that happened there. So they're going to be aware of their identity, of their true self, or their origin. And they won't put their confidence and put their trust and let the current state of things be, because they will know who they are. And that's something the other race don't want. For example, when we talk about Egypt, you're going to see the pharaohs of Egypt, they were blacks. And they're going to show the pyramids. The pyramids is one of the most ancient monuments, right, that the uninitiated black people did build. And in those pyramids, they don't even know how it was built, because it was built with such precision that for them it's out of this world. For them, it's impossible for them, because they don't know how that thing was built, how the pyramids came to be. So they will claim now, okay, no, how? And then they're going to say, now they're going to form theories. They're going to say, no, it was aliens. Aliens came along in ships and they built those things. You see? Because they don't want to admit, and they always trying to discredit what black people did. And then later on, they're going to say, okay, that aliens theory is not catching on. We're going to say it was white people that did that. Right? That's what they're trying to propagate. Because when a lot of researchers are going to come and say, no, it was black people that did that, they're always going to try to come out with some excuses. When they're going to come up with their documentaries, they're going to show the pharaohs. They will paint them white, they will paint them mixed, they will paint them some other color, but they won't represent them as they were. They won't represent them black, because they're trying to put on a show, an image, a propaganda. They're going to try to put up a false narrative that black people were not the pharaohs and did not build great things, did not build civilization. You see, because that's one of the areas where is still, people can still see that today. Now, and those pyramids, for your information, were built by the uninitiated black people. So now, can you imagine what did the initiated did build? Which sort and form of technology did they have? Because the technology of black people that were uninitiated were still higher, were still of their knowledge were still greater than the knowledge that people currently have. That the technology they had in ancient Egypt, the uninitiated black people, is way greater. The knowledge they have is better, and it's still a mystery to white people. You see? So now can you imagine what did the initiated black people built and had? That's what they don't want to show. They don't want to search. They don't want to find out. They are trying to hide the trace. They know where to search. They're going to search in their land. They're going to search where they know where they're going to find little things, right? So when we talk about Jenne, for Egypt, the true name of Egypt was Jenne, which means to see. So the Egyptians, when you're going to see pictures, for example, you're going to research a little bit, you're going to show the picture of black Egyptians, black pharaohs. You're going to see strong, big black men, well-dressed, kings, queens, a good image. They're gonna be like gods and superior beings. Now the question is, was it only the Egyptians that were like that? No. You have to understand that it was the whole black race, the whole black population that were considered as God, that were the superior beings in the visible on earth, because it was the black people is the first race. And that's what they're trying to hide in the current day Bibles. And they're trying to hide that, and in hiding it and showing a false image and showing a negative image, some black people then, uninitiated, are going to be ashamed of themselves, and they're not going to like their own skin, when in fact their DNA, the DNA of the black race, it's the DNA of the universe. It's the DNA that is natural, that is in nature. So that's the source, that's the natural DNA. So how can you be afraid or ashamed, or you're not liking what is the natural source, what is the natural DNA? Because that DNA, it's the one in the universe. And you can see that with the melanin, where they're more resistant and they are compatible with the sun. You see? Because even nature agrees with the black race. And that is an undeniable fact. So, and where does the black race come from? They come from Moto. Moto is the first man. Now, the first man is known today in the current day Bible as Adam. But Adam, that person known today as Adam, is Moto, and he was the first black man created by the manifestation of the word of Loba. And his DNA, because him had also the same DNA as the entity in the great order of things. So, and he was himself an entity. And his descendant, so his sons and his daughters, so the black race that came in after, are also gods, are also superior beings, or also have because they are from the same source, so they have the same DNA that is in the universe. So that's who we are. So that's what the black race is and where they come from. And that's why even today, some people are gonna testify that black people don't age as fast, because they're compatible with the nature, they're compatible with their environment, with where they live. because they have the power that were given to them in their DNA, in their gene, inside them by Moto, their ancestor who came from the great order of things and who was created by the manifestation of the will of Loba, the unique creator. So, with all that glorious history, like I've mentioned, with Moto, the first man, we're gonna talk about the Egyptians, the kingdoms, in all Africa, there were kingdoms, there were kings, queens, technology, great things, empires, technology that are forgotten in this time, that they are trying to find. What happened? Because what is the situation today? The situation today can also be found in Psalms 94 verse 3. So in the current day Bibles is Psalms, but I'm going to read in the authentic Bible and I will translate in English once again. The only authentic Bible without any errors and contradictions. It says this in Psalms 94 verse 3. Until when the whites and the mixed bloods, O Loba, until when the whites and the mixed bloods will triumph? Because at that period of time in Psalms 94 verse 3, that person was addressing and was complaining and was asking, until when will the other race triumph? Because they were triumphing, meaning they were having an impact, so they were causing a lot of suffering on a portion of the black population that were uninitiated. And that person in Psalms 94 verse 3 says, until when? Until when will that oppression, and will they keep going with this oppression, with their triumph and with their domination? Until when will they, like I said, oppress? Because that's also the situation as we can see today. Because a lot of people are going to may ask, until when is this thing going to go on? Where they are oppressing black people. And it's not all black people, a portion of black people, of the uninitiated black people. Because a lot of the uninitiated black people are asking for help and are wondering, how do we get out of this? How do we take back our place? How long is this thing going to go on? And in Psalms 14 verse 4, it says this: all those who commit iniquity, did they lose sense? ? The whites and the mixed bloods killed the uninitiated of the original people. They take them for the inferior race. They do not invoke the verb of Loba. So here we're talking about those who commit the iniquity. So do those who commit injustice. And the other race is asking here, until basically they are killing a lot of the uninitiated of the original race. So the original people is black people. So they take them for the inferior race. As you can see, many people today, whites, mixed blood and so on, will claim that they are the superior race. And you can see that also in Germany with the Nazis or the KKK in the US. So they will try to portray and show an image where they are the superior race. They're gonna say the Aryan race, and they're on top, and so on. So that's the image they are trying to portray. And why are they trying to say those things? And why are they trying to push that narrative? And why? Why it is the case? What are they trying to hide? And why are they forcing people to accept this? So, for example, regarding the Nazis, you can search, even in history, about the origin of the swastika, right? The swastika, the symbol. Right now, if you show the swastika to people, they're gonna be afraid. They're gonna say, "No, that's Nazism. That's that." You see, they're gonna link that symbol, that cross, to what happened in Germany, right? But what they won't know is that the swastika, that symbol, that wheel, because it is a wheel, that cross is a wheel, and is a wheel that turns. And that sign, that symbols, was from ancient India. And it was from black people from India who believed in reincarnation. So they also believed in false practices, in occult. They were in a false religion where they believed in reincarnation. And they used that symbol, and that symbol is basically the wheel of reincarnation. So you have people, you have insects, you have animals, you have insects, and you have the animals in the waters, the fish, and so on. So that's the wheel. And the German at that time, that person, he took that symbol and made it his. And now, when you look at that symbol, automatically you're going to associate with them. But we have to go beyond. We have to know the origin. We have to know where it comes from. Because even when you look at India today, you're going to see in India, there's a lot of Indians that are dark-skinned. Where does that dark skin come from? For that, you have to know the mystery of the Great Migration, the history of what happened after the continental drift, how population were dispersed, how mixing, and so on. So that's why you have to go back to the source to see where where do they come from, basically. So, and another part of history that a lot of people are not aware. It was also shown in the film. In the title of the film is Race. Race is a 2016 film, according to the current date that they use. Is a biographical sport drama film about an African American, according to the term they used. Athlete Jesse Owens, who won a record-breaking 4 gold medal at the 1936 Berlin Olympic Games. So he was a runner, you see, like Usain Bolt, and he won gold medal. And in that movie, you will see, and also in history, when that person came in those Olympics, when he came out, meaning Hitler, asked that they drop the flag. Their flag, the Nazis' flag, that they drop it when that Afro-American, according to the term they used, so that black man came. Why? Because what did he saw? He saw something he respected. So it was to honor him. So they dropped that flag. And even in history, when you research about Germany, when the oppression came to be about, what happened before and during that war, the black people that lived in Germany were not oppressed like the others. They were not mistreated the same way the others were. And some blacks, so during the war when they came in after, they were surprised of that fact that they were living basically in Germany, black people, and they were not subject to oppression like the other were. So for your information as well, the first queen of England was a black woman. So that's the history. And also if we go in Psalms 44 verse 23, it says this in the Authentic Bible, the only Bible without any errors or contradiction. And I will translate in English once again. But, so in Psalms chapter 44, verse 23, but it is because of the truth. It is because of the truth that the whites and the mixed bloods cut the throat. So they slaughter or cut the throat of our brothers, the original race. Cut the throat of our brothers of the original race. That they are regarded as a sheep destined for butchery. So, you're told here it is because of the truth. It is because of that knowledge that is brought to us by Zuglasan. It is because of those facts that they are trying to hide and that they are oppressing the black race, a portion of black people. It is because of that. And when you see, for example, violence, authority that kills, they're going to show it. They are going to... that's something that's going to suit them, right? They are going to try to hide something. And what are they trying to hide? What is the truth? The truth is not that fake Jesus that they're showing, right? Because that's another lie. When they're going to show in their other religions, they're going to have their own gods. They're going to show their gods white, mixed blood, and so on. So each race are going to have their own gods, their own, according to them, their own false god that they're going to worship. And they're going to try to force that into black people. And a lot of black people, many of them, accept and worship that fake Jesus, right? White. And why are they painting him white? Because they're trying to show and they're going to try to say and make you believe that even on the other side, so meaning even in the spiritual, that they are the superior race. That, you see, they're going to say, oh, it's Jesus. And then they're going to show him white. And then they're going to say Jesus is white. And they're going to say Jesus is God. And many black people are going to accept. So they're going to think that God is white. You see? So if God is white, where's your place in all this? So they're going to claim to be the superior race. Their God is white. For them, so, you see? So they're going to claim to be the superior race. And even they're going to claim that on the other side, so in the spiritual realm, it's also like that. But those are lies. As we've shown and we've proven by Zula has shown and proven that the true Christ was black. And when we are going to say that to people, some black people are still going to come up and say, no, what are you saying? The Christ cannot be black. And they're going to accept a fake Jesus white that suits them because they themselves, they don't like themselves. So they're thinking that no, it's impossible for the Christ to be black. So you see, because they hate themselves, they don't know who they are, they don't know history, so they don't consider themselves. So for them, it's impossible, or that cannot be true, that the Christ is black. Because they've already been like brainwashed to believe in lies, to believe that they're inferior, to believe that they don't have a history, to believe they're nothing. You see. So, they won't know their true identity. So, why are there so many fake religions, so many fake spirituality, so many beliefs that are wrong, misguided, lies, and so forth and so on? What is the source? In Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 51, in Bibèl, the only authentic Bible that I will translate here, your life will hold spiritually only to a mysterious thread, known to the entities, and you will expect nothing more from it and will doubt your origin, because they will make you believe that you descended from apes. Night and day you will tremble with fear. So here, the revelation, you're shown that in a period of time, black people, a portion of the black race, are going to doubt their origin of who they are and where they come from. They won't know. And they will believe in lies that Darwin put up. That he say, oh, it's evolution. They were the animals, they were in water, they came out, they became mammals, and then they became monkeys, apes, and then man came along, and so on. So if evolution is true, why are they still monkeys? Why can we still see monkeys? Why can we still see apes? So they're gonna say no, those ones didn't have evolution, so why? You see, lies, contradictions, errors. They're gonna try to make you doubt who you are and make you believe that you come from a monkey. And a lot of people are accepting it and believing it. So basically, they're trying to put you down. Make you think that you don't have any origin, that you come from monkeys, you come from animals, you're nothing, because that's how they treat, that's how they would like it to be. That's why even during back in the days, they claimed, they were trying to say, oh no, black people didn't have a soul, right? Even the Pope at the time previously, that's why how they basically justify what they were doing by claiming that black people don't have a soul. Soul lies. So what is behind all this? Is it because we know there's the media, there's all that, the governments, the presidents, so on and so forth, the companies, the people behind the internet, behind the net, right? That the media. But behind those, they are secret societies. And we're not talking about the secret societies of the Freemason and the Illuminatis, and so on. Illuminati. Those ones, that's nothing. Those are just puppets. Because they themselves are pawns. Right? And who is behind all the system, the current system? So, for that, we're going to go in Dubise, so Enoch, chapter 1, verse 114. Once again, that's the authentic version, la version authentique, the authentic version of the book of Enoch, Kalata Dubise. So, once again, by Zulu Lassan. So that's something they try to hide, because you can see there's many versions of the book of Enoch that they're trying to, and a lot of versions, some of them contradict each other. So this is the only authentic version. And in it, in verse 114, so chapter 1, verse 114, and it is written in French, and I will translate once again. In the book of Dubise, chapter 1, verse 114, how? It says here, how would we have known, have the abilities? Now, who is talking here? It's the fallen angels. Yes, the fallen angels. Those are the angels that came on earth and did and practice on earth things abominable, meaning things they basically brought disorder, corruptions. So they brought on earth a lot of things. And because of that, they were punished, meaning they were locked up. They were locked up because of the atrocities they committed on earth. So when they were locked up because of what they did, and because what they did to a portion of black people that were uninitiated, and even to the animals, they were locked up. And then here, while they're locked up, we are going to reveal what they are saying, basically what they are thinking. It says, how would we have known, in bracket, had the ability, how would we have known to what extent the uninitiated, so the black man, and the animals were still so important and considered despite their present condition, in bracket, the fall. So here they are saying, they're reflecting, they're thinking, they're asking, because they're reflecting on what they did, because they did some atrocities on earth and they were locked up because of it. And they're asking, how would we have known that in their even current condition, because we know that we are in the condition of the fall. We are after the fall. We are indivisible after the fall. And they thought that because they were in that condition of the fall, they were no longer considered by the verb of Lopa. They were no longer considered by the great order of things, that they no longer had an importance. So that's why they did those things. And they were punished for it. So that is to say that even at the current conditions, black people still and have a great importance, and they are considered. Why are they saying that? because they were hating on black people because of their condition, because of the fall. The fallen angels hated them. Because of who they are, because they came from Moto, the first man, and they did not consider them, and they thought they could do anything to them. You see? Even as today, you'll see, for example, some black people, uninitiated, will try to go in other countries. They're going to say immigration, right? And when they're going to go to the borders, or when they're going to take the boats and so on, the people in the other regions, so the whites and the half-breeds, are going to hate them. They don't want to, a lot of them will reject them, will hate them because of their condition. Because when they will see them, they will see, oh, you're fleeing from your country is poor, your country has violence. You see, you're hated even in your country, that's why you have to come here. And I'm seeing you here in this condition, and I hate you for it. And you're not considered, you see. So that's what a lot of them are thinking. You see, they are going to reject them. But when other races, when themselves, meaning between the whites, when they're going to try to immigrate, when they're going to try to go in other countries, they're going to say, no, that's tourism, that's allowed, that's okay. You see? But when it's black people who will try to immigrate other places, they're going to see the condition, they're going to say, no, that we won't accept. We won't accept. They're going to say, go back where you come from. You see? Those are the terms they will use. That's the mentality that a lot of them have. And that mentality comes from the mentality that also those fallen angels had regarding black people, where they didn't consider them and they thought they could do anything to them. They thought they could just keep oppressing them and there won't be any repercussion. That's what they thought. So, they will treat, a lot of them, they are trying to treat a portion of the black race, the uninitiated. They're going to say you're poor. They're going to try to treat you like animals. They're going to try to treat some black people, some uninitiated black people, as animals, right? And they even did that back in the days. You can see with during slavery and so on, you see oppression, because they didn't consider them. They thought they were nothing. They were the inferior beings, so they could just do anything, right? And that's a terrible mistake. So, that hatred, that fight that is going on, we can see the origin of it in Origin chapter 3, verse 15. In Bibèl, once again. And I'll translate. Here it says in the Authentic Bible, so that's after the fall, meaning when the woman, the first woman, which is Muto, known today in the current day Bible as Eve, but that's not her name. She was black. You see, she was black, and her husband, meaning Adam, Moto, was also black. And no one can prove otherwise. And after the fall, so after they're fallen because of whom? Because of Satan, who was behind that serpent, that dragon serpent. And in Bebotedi, so Origin chapter 3, verse 15, it says this: since you are only one, Satan, so Satan, so that's the devil, Satan, the Mudima Bobe, the evil spirit, and you in this fault, since you, I repeat, since you are only one, Satan, the evil spirit, and you in this fault, so that's the serpent and Satan, I will put a deep antipathy between you and Muto, the volitive faculty, between the race of demons, white and mixed blood, that will be born of your fellow, and between the black race from Muto, just like her. Hers will compress in you the principle of evil, and thus crush your agitation at the coming of the two manifested before the non-existence, and yours will compress in her outcome of her fault, in order to thwart her step for a time known to us. And yours will compress in her the outcome of her fault, in order to thwart her steps for a time known to us. So this verse is very mysterious. It's very deep. And we are going to go and explain this verse. So Satan, so the fallen entity, that evil spirit, made one with the serpent. And they've made, so the first woman disobey the law that was given. And because of that action of the serpent, there will be a fight. A fight, a war, an antipathy between you, so between the serpent and Muto, and first woman, so the black woman. Between the serpent and the black woman, between the race of the demons, the race of the whites and mixed blood that will be born of your fellows. So those one will be born from the fallen angels, and basically they are the descendant of those fallen angels in relationship with some black women that were uninitiated. And the demons is the descendant of the fallen angels with the animals. So those race will fight against Muto, so the first black woman, and against her descendant, meaning those they will fight against Muto, because the demons came in after Muto, after the first black woman. So it was against their descendant that they will fight spiritually, and we can also see it in the visible. So an antipathy that will be born of your fellow, and between the black race from Muto, just like her, hers will compress you. So she, Muto, will compress you, the serpent, in you. So in the serpent, the principle of evil. So disapprove and compress, so fight, and thus crush your agitation at the coming of the two manifested before the non-existence, so the two mysterious. And yours, so meaning of the serpent, the descendant, that race, the race of the fallen angels, those entities, fallen, the demons, and the mixed blood, the whites, will compress in her the outcome of her fault, in order to thwart her steps for a time known to us. So to thwart her steps, and that's what we're seeing today. They are trying to thwart, to stop the steps of black people. So they are going to try to stop black people from achieving first to know who they truly are, to know their origin, to know their history. So they are trying to falsify and lie, so a lot of things to try to stop her and her descendant. So to try to stop her, because her descendant is still her, in her tracks, right? So that's why in Genesis, in Origin 11, you were told that some black people, uninitiated, wanted to do alliances with the other race, and they were punished because of that. That's why you'll see they have open doors, basically gates, where the enemy can operate and strike. And some of those doors is the false religions, the lies, the false spiritualities, the false doctrines, all those fake pastors, all those churches all over the world who are anything outside of what Zulu Lasan is bringing to us in this time is in the wrong. It's not the truth. So all those lies, when you accept it, when you accept the lies, when you don't know your origin, you don't know your identity, you don't know who Loba is, you don't know the verb of Loba, you don't know the law, you don't know the commandments, you don't know the truth, you have a door open, and that's where they strike the word. That's how you see the state of the world. That's how you see the state of Africa. That's how you see the oppression, the injustice on a lot of black people because of that. Because when you are in those religions, when you are in those spiritualities, you are worshiping a false god. You are thereby rejecting who you are, you are rejecting your origin, you are rejecting the true creator you don't know, and you're worshiping false god, and that's not permitted. So that's why the protection is removed and you're destroyed in the physical, and we see the state of the world. Because black people, a lot of black people, uninitiated, have accepted false religions, false doctrines, and are preaching a white Jesus that never existed, that Zulu Lasan has proven over and over again that personage never came along, is not true, never existed, is false, was invented, manufactured. And when you're believing in it, when you're going in churches every Sunday and so forth and so on, saying Jesus save me, he's not saving you. Look at the state of the world. Look at the state of black people. You're saved from what? What did he save you from? What did he save you from? Is it not when you accepted him, a lot of your descendants or a lot of your ancestors accepted him, the uninitiated? That's also when they were put into slavery. So where was that Jesus at that time? Why couldn't he be helping you? Why did he allow you to be put in such condition when you were worshiping him? Those are the questions they don't want to answer. They don't want to face. They want to blindly follow what is written in the fake Bibles that they falsify, the fake translations full of lies, contradictions, errors, and they're gonna see the Bible as their idol and be in other religions. And we see the state of the world because black people, a lot of black people, don't know who they are and are accepting false religions. And that is a breach. And it is from that breach, because it started in the spiritual, because you're spiritually worshiping false gods, and spiritually you're accepting lies. That's why they have the power over you. Another breach is the alliances. Because some countries, even in Africa, will make alliances with whites, with half-breeds. You see? They will make alliances, ask for money, beg for money, that and so forth. Come help us. You see? So they will make alliances with the other races, and that's a breach. And when they make those alliances, they don't have the protection, and they are oppressed. We see the results. We see the results. And even if you don't make alliances, the whites and the half-breeds, so all those, you're gonna see in the country, they're gonna have terrorism, they're gonna have things that don't work out, poverty, things that come up, all that because there is breaches, and the breaches start in the spiritual, and that's why Zulu Lassan is here, the verb of loba, by the manifestation of the grace to block, to stop the breach and close the door so that we may be free spiritually. And if we are free spiritually, if black people know who they are, come to the truth, come to the source, who is Zulu Lassan at this period of time, come to the verb of loba, great things in the visible are going to be this visible system is going to stop. They are going to take their rightful place, and that's why you'll see that they're doing everything in their power so that doesn't happen. So the doors are the fake religions. Even black people, they'll come and they'll debate. They'll debate between themselves. Oh no, Jesus is the savior. Oh no, the other say no, is this guy the savior? You see, they're gonna be debating on what other people has forced into them and onto their ancestors. So new gods, they're gonna be debating false things. Pastors, all those in the wrong. So that's why there is the spiritual liberation. Now, one of the things also they were trying to do is because right now, and even previously, the black race is multiplying at an impressive rate, at a fast rate, right? More and more. There's more and more black people all over the world. You can see, you can feel it, you can see it, right? So what are they going to try to do? They're going to try to promote mixing. And still, that's not going to work. That's still, it's still not working enough for them, right? Because they're going to say, okay, if we mixed, that means we're going to put the black race down and we're going to populate the continent with the other race. Their race, basically. So that's also part of their plan. Another part of the plan is to reduce the population. But a lot of people have caught up into it. You see, with various methods, they will, even they did that back in the day with genocides. You can see with wars and various other campaigns to try to reduce the population and try to make some black woman infertile, meaning so that they don't have the ability to have children. That's what they tried to do. So because they're gonna say no, the earth, we have to stop the population growth because it's gonna be a danger to the earth. We don't have to stop anything. Who are you to say and to who do you think you are? You who say that, oh no, there's not enough place, there's not enough resources, and we have to stop the population growth. Who mandated you? Who made you in charge of the world of how things are going to be? If black people, a lot of them like to have children, and they have a lot of them. Some of them, exactly, they have a lot of them. So they're multiplying. Great numbers coming. There is enough resources. It's just mismanagement that makes it seem like there's not enough resources. There is enough. The earth is able to produce enough for everyone. So they were trying to reduce the population. But even then, they saw that no, it's not working. So they're afraid. The fallen angels, all those, they're and the secret societies, they want to put a stop. So they're trying to attack by various methods. But black people still multiplying. They oppressed, they brought slavery, they're still multiplying. They tried to have campaigns, genocide, war. Black people are still multiplying. They're going all over the world, multiplying, dispersing. Now almost all countries, you can see black people, almost. And so they're asking, what do we do? What do we do? How do we stop those people? Because they know that black people are taking in their rightful place. When we go back in history regarding in America, when they'll say the liberation regarding slavery, some people will say no, it's white people that pushed and wanted freedom for black people. They're the one who by decree signed and made it so. What they won't tell you is that black people were already rebelling. When you look at history, even in Haiti, how did they get their independence? How did they get their freedom? How? It was because of war. It was because they went against, they rebelled. And the same thing that happened there was also happening in the United States, in the Americas, all over the place. They were rebelling. Those who were in captivity, because they were already becoming numerous. There were a lot of them. And they were starting to rebel. They were starting to kill a lot of the slave owners. There were massacres after massacres. You can see, you can search, you will find out. They saw it, and they were afraid. Because it was a decree. It was a decree from the spiritual that had to cease, that had to stop. And it was already starting to manifest. So when they were signed by decree, when they will pass the law to make it, to grant their freedom, it's because they didn't have a choice. It was already happening. They were already being They were already being pursued. They were already being killed all over the place. Rebellions here and there. They didn't know how to contain it. So that's how they had to make the decree. Because the order came from the great order of things. A time known to us, and that time had come. And now that the oppressions, the servitude had stopped, now it was what? They were trying to say, okay, no, you cannot go there. Black people cannot go there. Black people couldn't go there. You see, to oppress, to always try to oppress as much as they can. That's their goal, to try to oppress, to try to stop. As we saw it in Genesis, in Origin 3, verse 14. Origin chapter 3, verse 15. So, black people are retaken. They're taking their rightful place. So in Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 19 in Bibèl, the Authentic Bible, it says this: before your eyes, your sons and your daughters will be given into servitude to white and mixed bloods. You will tire of watching for them to return all day long, and you won't be able to obtain it. So that was already prophesied. The servitude was already prophesied and was already known that that's what's going to happen. The initiates knew it. Busi, who is known in the current day Bible, Moses, already has wrote about it and warned the people of what was going to take place in the future. So, Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 20. The whites and the mixed bloods will feed off your crops, of the produce of your labor. You will be constantly exploited and mistreated. So that also was prophesied. And we can see it. We can see the state where a lot of companies, a lot of people, white half-bloods, will go in Africa, take whatever they want, the crops, the produce, abuse, exploit, mistreat. It happened because it was already prophesied, because of the breach, because of the disobedience of the word of Loba, because of the disobedience of the commandment that was given. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 21. The spectacle you will have before your eyes will make you sink into madness. You see, during slavery, the spectacle, the things that were happening were very troubling. And even when they show the movies, when they show what happened, when they will try to depict, you see that the emotion that's going to come is, you see, because it was prophesied. So, why did this, and how did it come to be, that slavery? That's how you have to understand that they had to have been a breach. Because black people, like I've mentioned, like I've said in the past, in history, during the time of kingdoms, kings, empires, you think a boat of whites or one, even 5 white people could come up to a black person in the ancient time, in ancient Africa. Though it's not the same black people. They were big. They were huge. They had muscles. They couldn't be stopped like that. They couldn't be taken like that. They had to have a breach And that breach was first in the spiritual. So the protection was removed. And the breach, when they began to serve other false gods and accept other religions, that was already a door open. And with that door open, that's when they they open the door to all that servitude. That's why Africa is like this. And once again, a clarification, is not all black people that went into slavery and that were put into servitude. It was a portion. It was a portion. So because of the fake religions, the lies, they have difficulties developing. They have difficulties inventing and developing their nation, their countries, their lands, because they have opened the door to all those fake religions, all those fake gods, that fake Jesus, that fake white savior that didn't save anyone and that never existed. That's why they have difficulties. And they will ask for help. Oh, help. You will see, even with the IMF, International Monetary Fund, they're going to say, okay, we need billions of dollars because, and then the IMF is going to say, yeah, take it. So basically, by giving the money, you're still being in a sort of financial servitude and to your creditors, right? Because they're the one who are printing your money, who's giving you, so they hold a certain power. All this because of the doors that are open. The false religions, all religions are false. So, Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 23. Mutate di, so the entity, so that's the entity that guides the initiated, will withdraw his protection. Then you will be deported to the white and mixed blood. There you will worship their false god, who are only statues of wood, stone, or made of other material. So you see, that was prophesied. The protection was withdrawn and deportation. And there in those lands, you'll see white people black people serving false gods, serving gods of other races. And when we're going to say, stop that, come back to the truth, they'll say, no, what are you saying? You see? Because they are deep into the lie. They've accepted it. There you will worship their false god, who are only statues of wood. So you see, some black people are going to worship statues, are going to bow down to statues, you see, idolatry. Stones are made of other material. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 28. You will have sons and daughters, but you will not be able to keep them with you, for they will be taken into exile. And we see it did happen. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 31. They are the ones who will lend you money, and no longer you will lend it to them. They will be your masters, and you will be at their service. So, like I've mentioned regarding the IMF, all that because some black people don't have the knowledge to develop their own resources and their own currency, and develop and take advantage of what they have in their own soil. No, they're opening the doors, letting the strangers come in their land and take what's there, go back to it in their country, transform it, come back with it, and sell it to them. Where are they? Where's the knowledge in all this process? All that because of lack of knowledge. Because they have rejected the word, because they've rejected the source, the law. They've forgotten what the ancestors, the initiated ancestors, taught them. Deuteronomy chapter 12 verse 32. All this misfortune will befall on you and will be strive against you until you are exterminated, because you will have refused to obey the word. So because you will have refused to obey the verb of loba and to keep the commandment and the law that he commands you to put in practice. So here we're talking about genocides. That's what it is. You will see wars, a lot of black people being exterminated, being perishing. All that because they refuse to obey the verb of loba, because they refuse to obey the word, because they refuse to obey the commandment, because they've accepted other religions. In Deuteronomy chapter 12 verse 33, in the only authentic Bible, he says this, that I'm translating: this will always remain as a solemn warning to you and your descendant. So that's a warning. Those things we see, it's a reminding, it's a reminder, it's a proof, it's a teaching, it's a punishment for black people to learn, to understand that the situation, why are they in this situation, to ask themselves the right questions. Of why is it like that? So, this will remain as a solemn warning to you and your descendant. Deuteronomy chapter 12 verse 34. If therefore you do not serve loba with joy and with all your heart, when you have everything in abundance, you will be dominated by the whites and the mixed bloods because of the protection that Mutatedi, the entity, will have withdrawn. You will be hungry and thirsty. You will be naked and deprived of everything. Deuteronomy chapter 12 verse 35. The whites and the mixed blood will put you under the iron. And the iron on your shoulder, until a great number of you are destroyed. Verse 36. From far away, from the extremities of the earth, Mutatedi will remove his protection. So will come the whites and the mixed bloods, that many of you know the language. The whites and the mixed bloods will rush against you like an eagle rushing towards his prey, with whipping, cunning, betrayal, murder, and lack of knowledge on your part. You will gradually lose your heritage, the heritage from the work of the manifestation of the will of Loba, which has also blessed you with blessings of great and deep deposit of kerosene, oil, petroleum, gas, and other riches of the soil known only to the initiated, who are found in the depth of the earth. So for that, the white and the mixed bloods will deliver you to torment, and you will hate one another. So here, we're talking about colonization. We're talking about oppression that the other race have inflicted and are inflicting because of the truth, and because they want black people resources. They want the oil, they want the diamonds, and they will persecute, oppress, kill, do wars, all for that. So in Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 37, these are hard-faced whites and mixed bloods, who will have no respect for the old, nor pity for the children. Verse 38, they will take hold of your beast and of your crops, and you will starve. They will leave you neither wheat, nor wine, nor oil, nor the young of your herds of ox, sheep, or goats. And a great number of you will end up disappearing. Chapter 39, they will besiege you in all the cities of the country which Mutatedi, the entity, gives you. They will fight you until the high fortified walls behind which you think you are safe crumble. Verse 40. During the siege, the white and the mixed blood will bring you to such distress that you will come to commit the despicable act with your children who have been granted to you. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 49. Mundima Bekokisedi, so the entity of punishment in charge of the domain of the nature, will snatch you from the land you came from, and you will be scattered among the whites and mixed bloods from one end of the world to the other. There you will worship false gods that neither you nor your ancestors will have known, and statues of wood, stone, or other materials. Verse 50. In the midst of the white and the mixed blood, you will not know any tranquility. You will not find any place to settle. Under the punishment of Mundima Bekokisedi, the entity of chastisement, in charge of the domain of nature, worry will trouble your heart. Your eyes will lose their shine, and discouragement will take hold of your whole being. Verse 51. Your life will hold spiritually only to a mysterious thread known to the entities, and you will expect nothing more from it, and will doubt your origin, because they will make you believe that you're descended from apes, so from monkeys. Night and day you will tremble with fear. And we can see they've lied on history, falsified history, brought forth false religions, and a lot of black people have accepted it, and we see the state of the world. That's why. That is the reason. That's the breach. The door that is open. It's like you have a house. And you don't have a security system, and you have the doors open. So it's easy for them to come and take whatever they like and oppress, steal, kill, all those, because the doors are open, because there's not a good security. And what is the security? And how do you close the doors? How do you close the windows? Is by the manifestation of the grace of Loba through his word, through the teaching we are receiving by Zulu Lassan. You have to know the truth. You have to know your identity. You have to know who you are. You have to know your origin. You have to you have to receive the grace. In Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 1, when the uninitiated generation also which will follow you, that of your children, the descendant of the white and the mixed blood will see the catastrophes and the disasters which their ancestors will have inflicted on your continent. They will say at that time there only, this part of the continent is burnt by sulfur and salt. Nothing can be sown there. Nothing grows there. No grass even develop there. Verse 2. Then all the other descendants of white and mixed blood will ask, why did Loba, their sovereign, treat this continent like this? Why was the punishment so great? Verse 3. And the religious leaders of the whites and the mixed bloods will answer, this happened because this uninitiated black people broke the covenant given to them by the mighty Busi. So Busi, known today in the current day Bible as Moses, who was black. So don't try to come and spread some lies that Moses is white or so forth. No, Moses is Busi and he was black. Deuteronomy chapter 13 verse 4. They began to serve and worship false gods, which our white and mixed blood ancestors invented and mounted from nothing, that they did not know before, and that Loba, their sovereign, doesn't allow them to worship. Verse 5. That's why their protection was withdrawn, and there the divine punishment was unleashed against their continent, thus spreading all the calamities described by the initiates. And the divine punishment has poured out his fury and terrible anger upon them, who are the true owners of the world. As a result, a great number of them were torn from their continent after the great drift of the fragment of the continent, and were driven out on our lands which properly belongs to them, where they still are. So that's what was prophesied. That's what was known by the initiated. And what happened. Because there's three categories of people. There is, well, when we talk about in Bibèl, in the Bible, so in the history, there is the initiated people. So that's black people that know their truth, that know their identity, that are spiritual, that know their origin, that know who they are, where they come from, that know Loba, that know the Creator, the unique and only Creator, that know the word of Loba, that know the commandments, that know the law, and that obey and put in practice, and practice justice. They are also the uninitiated people. Those are, and in the uninitiated people, they are the one. There's also uninitiated rebels. Those are the one who practice occult practices that are in other form of religions. Those are the ones that don't know who they are, that don't know the word of Loba, that don't know their identity, that don't know their history, that don't know who they are, that are following the practices and the religions of the other races. And then you have the uninitiated graced. The graced uninitiated. Those are the ones who were previously unaware of the truth, who were previously in the lies, and who are listening to the initiates, who listen to the teaching that we are receiving in this era from Zulu Lassan who were listening in the past to the initiates and accepted the message and basically understood who they were. And they were graced because they were no longer uninitiated. They were no longer in darkness. So, there's a great battle going on. And it is spiritual. In Psalms 83 verse 3, For, behold, the whites and the mixed bloods are agitated. Just take this. Okay, Psalms 83:3. For, behold, the whites and the mixed bloods are agitated. Those who hate the truth lift their heads. They form cunning plans. So verse 4, they form cunning plans against the original people, and they deliberate against those whom you protect. So you here is the verb of lopa. Verse 5, come, they say, let us exterminate them from the middle of the continent, and that their name no longer be remembered. They all concert together with one heart. They make an alliance against us. So here in Psalms, it was an initiate that was speaking, that was writing. The demons also join them. They lend their strength to the whites and the mixed bloods. Because they say, let us take their knowledge. Let us take of their knowledge of their wives in order to populate their continent with our offspring. The mixed bloods. So you can see, they're going into Africa, even in the past, reading, researching, trying to find out the knowledge that black people have. And they're falsifying history, and then they're bringing up and claiming they're inventing things that they stole from black people. And then they'll try to populate their continent with the mixed blood. So, when you see today, you'll say, oh, there's a lot of technology. You'll say there's computers, there's the internet, electricities. All those things existed in ancient Africa. It existed, but in other form. So black people had technology, terrible technology. And like I said, black people are more and more numerous, and now they want to stop people from having babies. Because they know that when blacks are going to be more and more, they're taking their power. They're taking their rightful place. We can see it. For example, even in the United States, a lot of black people, they're more and more. They have a lot of influence. They have a lot of saying. And if they want to cause trouble, they can cause a lot of trouble. So you see that with great numbers, they have no choice but to negotiate. They have no choice but to ease up. But they don't want to ease up. So that's why they were trying to say, okay, no, there's too many peoples. Stop having babies. You see? So, and then they're trying also to mix people to replace. Another plan is the vaccination, sterilization, religions. And then in religions, they're going to say what? Okay, a lot of black people now are accepting religions. And then they'll say, okay, since you are in the same religions, you're all brothers. So that means if there's a war, if there's things going on, you won't be against your brother because you are in the same religions. You see? That's how they're trying to play it. Okay. Here. So behind the chessboard, they're trying to see how do we stop them? How do we stop the black race? How do we keep oppressing them? How do we keep them down? How do we keep them down? That's their goal. And to do that, it's religions, like I've mentioned, is to hide their history, is to lies. But their plan are failing. Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 4 to 10. In Bibèl, once again, it says this. So I invoked Mutatedzi, the entity, and said, remember, Mutatedzi, what happened to us. Look, see the opprobrium of the uninitiated. Her inheritance to us blacks has passed to whites and mixed bloods, as well as several of our houses. We often drink our water at cost of money. We pay for our wood. Whites and mixed blood rule over the uninitiated, and no one delivers them out of their hands. The uninitiated seek their bread. At the risk of their lives, and they have dishonored our mothers and sisters of race. Uninitiated village chiefs were hanged by their hands. The person of the elderly was not respected. The joy has disappeared from the heart of many of our brothers of race. Mourning has replaced their dances. The honor that was on the heads of the old has fallen. Woe to our continent, because many of our fathers made alliances with whites and mixed bloods. Because of this, the hearts of the uninitiated are doubly beaten down. Because of these things, their eyes are darkened. As for you, O Loba, you reign for indefinite times. You reign for indefinite times. So that was the first phase, the hatred of black people, the oppression, the things that are going on. Now the phase 2 is the identity of black people, who they are. Man is Bato. Man is Moto. Moto is the first man. So man, the man one is Moto, and man, the plural, is Bato. Those are men. The other races are human beings. And the men is the black race. The other race, human beings, is Mota Benama. So, who is the black race? Who are they? Who are black people? Where do they come from? Black people come from Moto, the first man. The first man in the visible. The first man and the first woman. Known in the today classical Bibles as Adam and Eve, but they were both blacks. And their name is Moto and Muto. You can find out in Bibèl, the only authentic Bible. Yes, like this. So, for that, we're gonna go in Dubise. So once again, that's going to be in Kalata Dubise, the book of Enoch, the authentic version. And I will translate. In Dubise chapter 1, verse 268 to 269. He says this. Me, Dubise, that's Enoch, the prophet. He was black. Nobody can tell otherwise. It was proven by Zulu Lassan, the only teacher. All the prophets were blacks. All the prophets in the Bible are blacks. The initiated. The first race on earth was the black race. Nobody can prove otherwise. So if the first race on earth was black, that means the first man was black. That means Adam was black. The prophets were black. And so forth and so forth. And so on and so forth. The Christ himself was black. Now in Dubise, Enoch, he says this. Me, Dubise, I heard the words of Di Bangane and Biedi, which have the same meanings when they said to me. So those are the entities that spoke to Dubise, that revealed him spiritual things, which have the same meanings when they said to me, the black man was not created in the visible to relate his spirituality on the matter made from cellulosic vegetables fiber. He was created to imitate our virtue and impartiality of us, the heavenly entities. So, the black man, his identity, he was put on earth to imitate the virtue and impartiality of the entities in the great order of things. Because the first man himself, Moto, was an entity that came on earth to accomplish a mission, a mysterious mission. And he was indivisible. So he was a living soul. And you're told here he wasn't created to relate his spirituality on the matter made from cellulosic vegetable fiber. So why is it then we have books? If the black man wasn't made to relate the spirituality in books. Because because of perturbation that came in after. Because in the oral story, the narrative, in the telling, a lot of mistakes got introduced when people were relating their spirituality. And that was known. So that's why it was allowed that it be related. Because this now represents a support, an help. And it's also a powerful weapon. Now, in Kundumane Mula, so that's the true Christ, chapter 30, verse 1. 3 days later, during the night, several high-ranking white and mixed bloods dignitaries plotted against Jokisabe. Jokisabe is the Christ. In this term, faced with such a chief consecrated initiate, our very knowledge is only illusory. You see? Like even today, Zulu Lassan is the chief initiate. And other than him, all the other pastors, all the other priests that claim to be priests, claim to be pastors, know nothing, have no knowledge. They don't meet the requirement. They cannot challenge. It's not a fair match. They're not on the same level. Is not comparable, because Zula San has the knowledge, and they are in lies. They are in false doctrines. And it was the same thing at the time of the Christ, of Kundumane Mula. They said, faced with such a chief consecrated initiate, our very knowledge is only illusory. Because a lot of people are going to complain and are going to say, are going to be faced with the fact that their knowledge, faced with the knowledge that is brought to us by Zulu Lassan, is illusory. Meaning, doesn't exist. That's not knowledge. Is nothing. Faced with the knowledge brought to us by Zulu Lassan. In Kundumane Mula, chapter 30, verse 8, the chief of their high dignitaries continued again and said, for we must not ignore the true origin of the black man, that in the beginning the Creator allowed that to him the earth be given to him alone, and his descendants are the true heirs of the visible universe. Verse 9, and in their spirit, soul, and bodies reside one of the secrets of the divine, which we must extirpate before that this whole people awakens from his slumber. So the first man was created, and his descendant also have the same DNA. So the black race have the same DNA, and is a secret. So, and inside that, the secret is the divine, one of the secret of the divine. So that's what it is. That's the source. And then they say, which we must extirpate before that this old people awakens from its slumber. So they're trying to hide the history and basically take the heritage. In Esombe 15, chapter 15, verse 11. Esombe is known in the current day Bibles as Paul of Tarsus, but his true name is Esombe, and you can see that in Bibèl. So in Esombe 15:11 it says this: let no one therefore set his glory in whites and mixed bloods, because everything belongs to the black man. So the black man is the natural. It's what is, what always has been. Its DNA is the DNA of the spiritual entity in the great order of things. And his ancestor is Moto, the first black man, to whom the earth was given, and to whom the earth was and still is, because his descendants are still part of him. So still belongs to the black race, to the black man. Now, we're going to talk about Moto, that first black man. In Dubise, so once again, Enoch, chapter 1, verse 505. The manifestation of the will of Tete. So Tete is Loba, the creator of heaven and earth and everything known, and of who is out of his creation and even out of existence and even out of the non-existence. He created by the manifestation of his will is out of time and space. So, okay. The manifestation of the will of Tete then continued to declare by the means of his verb to manifest Moto in the reality of the visible, being in the condition of the visible in the seventh manifestation of the invisible and visible nature, exterior, observable, perceivable, intelligible, appreciable, important. Verse 500. So I'm going to read from 505 to 514. Moto, your ancestor. So the ancestor of Enoch was manifested, created, identical to us, spiritual DNA common to all non-visible beings, which are the entities of the great order of things. He is also the life which bears a body, and this body is spiritual, a spirit similar to us beings from beyond the invisible veil. It was this spirit that became the last spirit, Mudi. In Douala is the original language, the first language. Created entity manifested in the great order of things. And the visible, physical body of that spirit, which is Moto's spiritual body, was manifested, created in the seventh from the visible manifestation of the invisible and visible exterior nature. The visible side of Moto is manifested in order to experience the condition of the visible in the physical body through a link between his spirit and his body. The link between his spirit and his visible body is a soul. Thus, the skin of Moto, physical body, gives in its formation from the silt of the earth the appearance of the color of darkness, black, manifested from the union of our reflected shadow. Moto is the very first black man visible in the visible. At his creation, the manifestation of the will of Tete created him and circumcised, just like we, entities of the great order of things. So here, that's Moto. Moto was created from the DNA of the spiritual entities. So they were from the same source, because they were created by the manifestation of the will of Loba. And he was created to live a condition in the visible, with a body and the spirit, and the link between was the soul. And that body was black. The skin of that body was black. So, there we go. So, okay. So, DNA information, the DNA is in the universe. That's why even when you die, or when you close your eyes, you're in darkness. When you die, you go in darkness. The universe, you see? So everything is black. Everything is black. All the entities are black. Spirituality is a question of race, is a matter of race. So the mission of Moto, the first man, was to accomplish the known number. And that's why mixing was introduced to stop that. So the last created entity. So that's in Bibèl. The last created entity, verse 5. It happened. So before I read, even when they talk about, when we talk about here the circumcision, that's why black people practice and should, and the law was established for them to practice circumcision, because their ancestor Moto, the first man, was created like that, was created circumcised. And the entities in the great order of things are also circumcised. That's why. That's the origin. That's the reason why. So in the chapter, in the book, the last created entity, verse 5. It happened again much later, although time was not yet manifested as we conceive it in the visible, that the manifestation of Loba's will then continued to declare by means of his verb to create a being, life which carries a body, and this spiritual body is a spirit. It was this spirit that became the last spirit, Mundi, entity, created in the seventh manifestation of the invisible and visible nature, similar to the being's lives, that's uppercase L, from beyond the non-visible great veil. This being, entity, has been manifested in order to experience the condition of the visible in the physical body, through a link between his spirit and body. This link between spirit and body is a soul. And it is from the nature, life, uppercase L, uppercase N, spiritual, uppercase S, DNA, common, uppercase C, to all beings of the non-visible, whom are the entities of the great order of things, that was manifested by the luminous intensity of the radiance of their inner image, the last spirit, Mundi, entity, by the manifestation of the will of Loba. Thus, the skin of the physical body of this being ends up giving during its formation from the silt of the earth the appearance of the color of darkness, black, manifested by the union of the reflected shadow of the spiritual beings beyond the non-visible veil. Beyond the non-visible great veil. This being is known under the name Moto. Moto was the very first black man. Moto thus became the very first black man of all creation in the visible and physical plane. And from then on, Moto was the universal man, a living soul, universal. So Moto, the first man, was black. That's the identity of who black people are, where they come from. Because to know where they come from, we have to know their origin. And their origin is from Moto. And the origin of Moto is from the spiritual. So black people are spiritual beings living in the physical condition because they have a spirit, a body, and a soul. Moto was their ancestor, the last created entity. That's who they are. That's who we are. So and then here, why then a lot of black people will try to change their skin color, bleach their skin, because they're ashamed of who they are, because they hate themselves, when the sun itself is black. The sun agrees with your darkness. The nature agrees with your darkness. Nature is black. How can you be ashamed of what is normal, of what is natural? That's the basic. It's the other that is unnatural. When the entity comes on earth, when an entity comes on earth, meaning the angels, they are black. They are black. They are not white. They are not, because that's who they are, even on the other side. When they manifest themselves in the physical realm, they are black. And that is not discrimination. That's simply stating the facts, the truth. So Moto is the ancestors, and we know that a dog doesn't give birth to a cat. So Moto, who's the ancestors, and Muto, his wife, the first man and the first woman, they are the ancestors, and their descendant can only be black. It cannot be any other things. And Moto himself cannot be any other thing than black, because the spiritual entities are black, and he was created from their common DNA, their common nature. So, blacks are descendants of the entity of Moto. And the skin color, their skin, their color, who they are, is the support, the natural. So black is a god that fell. Black people are gods. Black people are gods. The first entity, meaning the first man, the entity in the visible realm, Moto, who lived the physical condition through with a spirit and a soul, is our ancestor. And he was the owner of the universe. He was the master on earth. So their descendant, the descendant of the first man and the first woman, are also the heirs. And their origin is from the great order of things. So, And once again, to state again the fact, the servitude of whites and other races regarding slavery lasted longer than the one for black people, a portion of black people. So that was the message. Now, with all that being said, Loba does manifest justice. With all those revelations, we still have to apply. You still have to apply, meaning you have to put in practice the law and obey the commandment. Because in the past, the ancestors, many ancestors, uninitiated, disobeyed, rebelled, refused to follow the law, refused to put in practice, refused to be just, refused to walk according to the path of righteousness. It is because of that they were punished. And it is because of that you can see the state of the world. So you who listen to the message brought to us by Zulu Lassan that I'm sharing here, you have to come to the source. You have to accept the word, and you have to put in practice. It's not simply because you're black that means you can do anything. Loba manifests justice. You have to apply the law, put them into practice. And for all the other races, whites, mixed blood, who listen to this message, we are here to bring the truth, to say the truth, state the facts. And if you accept the facts, if you accept the truth, if you understand and you repent and you want to come into this truth brought to us by Zulu Lassan, like I've mentioned, Loba manifests justice. So that was the message. And all glory to Loba once again for the manifestation of his grace